So hello, everyone. I am so excited to bring back a front runner that I haven't talked to in a little while. So get ready. You're going to get to know somebody that we think is really special, and somebody who's been where he is situated right now for quite some time. And it's really fortuitous because there's a celebration behind all of this. So welcome first to Frontrunners Innovate, where we connect you to global leaders who are innovating and creating positive impact around the world. Today's guest is Larry Griffith, and he's the Executive Vice President of Programs and Student Services at the United Negro College Fund, or what we call UNCF. We have interviewed Larry. It's been a few years. It's been 2019, I think. And for all the great work that he has been doing there for the students and for the organization itself. But as UNCF celebrates its 80th anniversary year this year, and Larry has moved on to, let's say, a higher leadership role as of last summer in the organization, we thought now would be a really perfect time to catch up with him about his work and his impact, as well as that of the organization. So without further ado, welcome, Larry. We are so excited to have you back.
Mary, it's great to see you, and thank you for the warm welcome back. And I'm so pleased to be part of the Frontrunners group and to have a chance to talk with you again.
Fantastic. Well, we're excited to learn more about what you're doing and what the organization itself is all about, and straightening out some, I don't know, myths and legends and how everything cranks forward, because it's a big animal there. I mean, it's a big organization, and I've just learned that recently. And all the tentacles, and I didn't know that there was chapters and different.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know all that. So we're going to find out
25
more
offices around the country.
yeah.
Yes.
We're going to find out about all that. So first, let's find out about you. And for those people who don't know you and your background, share a little bit about how you got to UNCF and all the many years that you're spending there now.
Great. Well, thank you for asking. So this is my 18th year at UNCF. I joined the organization back in 2007. March 5th is my anniversary of 2007. Yeah. And prior to that, I had been with the College Board. Some people may know it as the organization that does the AP exams, the AP courses, or the SAT. But I had been an assistant vice president with the College Board, having run their Middle States office. And then interestingly, and this will be a sort of these full circle moment, had gone to the New York office of the College Board, where I worked as an executive vice president of a program that had me travel around the country with a law firm, because at the time, the Michigan decision, which was the preceding decision to the most recent Supreme Court decision on affirmative action, was made. And our job was to help colleges and universities stay on the right side of the law in continuing the work that they were doing in diversifying their undergraduate students in their institution. So fast forward now 18 years, and the other Supreme Court decision has been made. I'm on the other side of the equation now, helping students of color go to college. So we can talk about sort of that full circle moment and the impact on the work. But that's what brought me to UNCF's attention, that work that I was doing nationally for the College Board. And I got headhunted and joined the organization, first as vice president for the Gates Millennium Scholars Program, and then received a promotion to a senior vice president for all of UNCF's some 400 now plus scholarships, programs, internships, and fellowships. And last summer, was promoted again to executive vice president. So my reach is a little bit more broad as we launched the capital campaign, but I'm doing much more work more deeply with our clients and our development operation in helping us craft programs and continue to build upon the great work that we're doing.
I'm going to ask you an odd question, but I think it would help to get a broad perspective about what you do. So when you talk about managing the different scholarships and programs, can you tell us kind of how that works? So, say a pharmaceutical company or somebody donates a bunch of money, and you have it now in a pot, and so you have to be responsible for what to do with that money. And how does that roll into a scholarship or a bunch of scholarships for students? Sure. I mean, I don't know if there's an easy answer to that, but maybe.
Well, there is. And I can talk to you about one of our pharmaceutical company partners. So during the pandemic, AbbVie Pharmaceuticals came to UNCF and they said, listen, We know about Breonna Taylor. We want to honor her legacy, and we want to help young women of color who are single mothers who want to build their professional lives, but who want to work in allied health professions. So people who want to be phlebotomists, people who want to be paramedics, like Breonna Taylor was, and others who want to pursue that. Can you help us? And we said, absolutely. What's interesting about those types of professions is that they're really two-year programs or certificate programs. And you might think, well, that's very different from the UNCF membership, which is 37 historically Black private colleges and universities, largely located in the Midwest and the South, and who make up our membership. But UNCF sees that work as critically important because of the community that we serve, largely African-American community, as well as just student communities across the country. One interesting thing about UNCF, we work with close to 1,000 colleges and universities every year in every corner of America. Publics, privates, 2 years, 4 years, certificate programs. I joke that we work from everything from dog groomers to Duke, and from hair schools to Harvard. And so everything in between. And so when AbbVie came to us, they said, can you do this? And so we created with them, and just a fantastic partner to work with, a program that would bring 200 students, but largely young women, to the program every year who wanted to work in allied health professions, give them a scholarship that covered the cost of that education, as well as professional guidance by somebody who had been a healthcare provider in the allied health profession and could help these students navigate that 2-year experience and put their arms around them and be that sort of big sister that they could come to say, I'm running into this problem, I'm running into that problem, can you help me figure it out? And she has just been fantastic as a partner with us in helping students make that navigation. We are now on our 4th cohort. So we've been able to move 800 students through that program and get into the profession. And it's been so important to have those people as a backfill to all of the individuals who had given so much during the pandemic, and to be able to have those students come in. So the way that it works is that a grantor will come to us, they'll have a vision, an idea, what they want to accomplish, and we'll help them create a program out of that. And one of the greatest joys is to see someone come with something that is two-dimensional. And then all of a sudden, a year on, 2 years on, we have students, people, real life, three-dimensional people who are benefiting from that investment that has been made in and through UNCF to these individuals' lives and their success at their education.
That's fantastic. I love the story. Do you, and I'm sure you do you track the progress of the individuals that have gone through these programs?
Very closely, very closely. I mean, in some cases, we will ask for to demonstrate their academic progress by semester. So for this program, because each of those students has a what we call college success coach, they submit their transcripts every semester, and she reviews that with them and says, all right, you did well here, you seem to have some challenges there, let's talk about your courses that you'll take next semester or next year so that we get you in the right path. Oh, you've changed your mind, you wanted to be a dental assistant, but now you're choosing to go into phlebotomy, so let's see how your program will adjust and move you in that direction. So it is a very engaged type of program. So that's sort of the, one of the deeper investments. More of our typical programs are what we call the traditional scholarship programs, where a grantor will give $10,000, $25,000 to UNCF. And they'll say, hey, can you find 5 students to give a $5,000 scholarship to? And we will say, absolutely. And we'll go out, we will work with them on the criteria. They have to come from the state of Ohio. They want them to go to a 4-year college in Ohio, and they have to have a 2.5 GPA. And they will be able to, take that scholarship and use it for the next 3 years after the initial award. Absolutely. So we go out, we identify that student, we launch the application process, students apply, We work as the contact for those students, help them through any challenges that they may be having with the application process. We close the application. We screen the candidates, make sure that all the people that we're going to read have the right criteria. And then we have a reading committee. And sometimes it may include the grantor. Typically, it doesn't. The UNCF staff goes in, they read those candidates. And we will have had, in some cases, up to 4,000 students apply, as we do for our STEM Scholars program, for 100 slots. So some of these can be keenly competitive scholarship programs. We select the finalists, and then we go out to their colleges and universities, and we say, hey, they told us this information. Let's validate that. Is this true that they have that GPA? Yes. Have they been enrolled? Have they declared that particular major? Do they have these kinds of things that they told us? They said that they were president of the class. Are they really president of the class? We validate all of that information, and then we award that scholarship to the student and stay in touch with them throughout. Send your information. There's the time for renewal. And actually, we're right in that period now. So we are reaching out to students who have what we call renewing scholarships or recurring scholarships. We reach out to them to say, it's that time. You're getting ready to enroll for next year. Let us know your information so that we can prepare your funds for the next year and get that to you just about when your bill is due at the end of the summer, so that by the time you show up on campus in those first few weeks of August or the first few weeks of September, your funds are already there and waiting for you when you come to campus. And we're doing that for thousands of students. This year, we just finished our fiscal year at the end of March. And this year we worked with just under 10,000 students to issue $63 million in scholarships to those students, starting this, who will pick up those funds and use them in the coming academic year. It's really exciting.
Well, no wonder the UNCF is as big as I know it is now. You must have a ton of staff members to help do that sort of thing.
Well, with
takes a
our
lot
team,
of man hours.
There are 72 people that do all that work across all of those different programs. And then UNCF, you've heard about mind is a terrible thing to waste. Yeah. And you think, wow, they have 25 offices across the country. They work with 37 institutions. They work with these thousands upon thousands of students. Remember, it's 10,000 students each year that we select. So we've got students already continuing. So at any given time in a cycle, we may be working with 25 to 30,000 students and issuing our funds that we do on an annual basis. And so, you would think that it's a huge organization. Really, we're just around 300 people.
Well, it's not as big as I actually thought it was. You need all 300 of those.
Very efficient.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're kind of leading me into, this isn't the way I thought it was going to go, but you're leading me into the conversation around the 80th anniversary, because this organization is it's got some legs. It's got some roots.
It has.
It's been around quite some time. So, what kinds of events and ways have you guys been celebrating for this special?
Oh, wow. So we started off the year, right at the start of the year, around Martin Luther King, in January, with some very light touches, sort of a lead into the 80th anniversary.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in Black History Month, in February, we did quite a few things with a little bit more legs. But the big celebration kicked off our national gala at the beginning of March with our annual board meeting, which was here in Washington, D.C. We took over the Washington, D.C. Convention Center with almost 500 people at a dinner, and at which we had some great entertainment. We had some excellent food, and we looked back to UNCF's 80 years and the just these incredible strides that we've made, the work that we've done in supporting hundreds of thousands of students of all kinds of backgrounds, in providing resources for them for their education, the work that we've done with our 37 colleges and universities over that time. And it was particularly important in looking back, for instance, in recent history, during the pandemic period, when, one moment our students were on campus having a normal academic year, and the next minute they were told as they came back from spring break, go home.
Yeah.
Finish out the year with you at distance education. And then for the next 2 years, our students weren't on campus. And we had to figure out how to help our member schools get to distance education, but also how to figure out how to do the legacy of an HBCU education at a distance when you were doing that from your living room table, or for some students, from their parents' workplace. It was so unusual. But we came through that stronger, better, and now we're sort of back to campus again and helping our institutions continue that education process, helping students get to education and advocating for great educations for students at our K-12. And so what I've talked about is sort of the 3 areas of UNCF: those member schools that we work with every year,
Yeah.
the thousands of students that we work with every year, but the key important thing, that advocacy for great education for students, that is so important as we work with the federal government to make sure that students get the best education possible, but also the K-12 community, so that they're preparing students as best as possible for a great education at one of our member schools. So we've been doing that now for 80 years in a couple of days,
Yeah.
and having a great experience with it. And you think 80 years in, right?
Yeah.
They're kicking back and they're relaxing. They're, not innovating at stuff. Oh no. And that's just why, this is such a great thing for Frontrunners, because you talk about institutions that are looking forward and innovating. Well, we are 80 years young. And so we're doing some great things. For instance, one of the major things you're doing, you'd think, whoa, an organization that works with colleges and universities. We've got an entire K-12 division that is working on building charter schools on the campuses, because we know that creating teachers that go into the classroom that are helping an increasingly diverse America is a really important thing. And so students who come to our institutions can get hands-on educational experience as educational leaders. So we're building charter schools on those campuses so that they have classrooms in which to practice their teaching. Opportunity to see leaders who lead educational, and they can go out and then work within educational system and become leaders themselves. So that's an innovation that we're doing. We launched and are in the semi-quiet phase of a $1 billion campaign that will create a ongoing foundation for the UNCF organization, but also for each of our 37 members, to guarantee that there will be continued that quality education for students who attend those. That's something that's exciting. And we're constantly expanding our scholarships programs into unique areas, more so helping students make that connection to various professions. So we know that still, interestingly enough, 68% of our students who come to our colleges and universities are first generation in their families to go to college.
Yeah.
And they've never been exposed to those professional careers. Many of them only have a limited vision of what is out there where they can leverage their education into, great careers. And we help expose them to that. So last year, we added to our student professional programs, what we call our internship programs, getting hundreds of students into summer internships, but also exposing them to more and more careers in publishing, in insurance, in finance, in literacy, in art and education, and helping them sort of experience those professions and to think about how they can use their degree programs to pursue those. So they're great areas that we're building in and still innovating around programs, even at 80 years old.
That's fantastic. I've had conversations with some of the staff not too long ago that centered around innovation. And one of the things I asked was, are there innovation centers either at the UNCF level, like at the headquarters level, which I didn't know if there was an effort or a center there, or at the individual, college levels out there? you know, I spent a lot of my working life in the Raleigh-Durham area, so I was around 2 or 3 and lived and worked near, you know, we used to call it St. Augur, you know, Shaw University, but so I was familiar with them. But you know, I look at the old, you know, vintage structures and the wonderful, you know, kind of ivy covered sides of the wonderful structures that were there. But it's hard to imagine the innovation or the space for it that could be there, but I do know that the minds are there for it. So tell me a little bit about that, because I know one of the things that we learned from the pandemic and some of the things that have happened to us over the last little bit, that there's been a birthing of new, like climate change and what have you. There's been a birthing of actual new occupations that we didn't have like 5 and 6 years ago.
Right, exactly.
You know, the cybersecurity, the breaches that are happening every other day. 3 have happened to me and my family in the last, you know, 4 or 5 months. And so I think that you can't even move fast enough to keep up with some of the technology that's happening right now. Tell us a little bit about what's happening with innovation inside UNCF and the.
So we'll start within UNCF and then spill out onto the campuses.
Yeah.
So within UNCF, one of the newest areas is that we've created a Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship within the Scholarship Division, because so many organizations were coming to us and they were talking about the emergence of AI, blockchain, and its application to Bitcoin and other areas of all of the sort of the way that you move products through all of the various ways that it goes from actually being produced, and even the production process, to getting to, you know, where we go to Walmart and buy something.
Commercialization,
you know,
that's right.
Supply chain is a hot area. But also entrepreneurship. You talked about, you know, all of these new areas of enterprise as we've come out of the pandemic, as, you know, there's been this explosion of small business, as people are understanding the importance of ownership and what you know, everybody is talking about these side hustles that they do, the emergence of sort of, you know, online technologies, and also personalities online that are creating value and income. You know, all these different things are all entrepreneurship. And the students at our member institutions wanted to have ways of tapping into that, of learning how to do it, of connecting to it. So we did some great work under our Koch scholarship program that created an entire curriculum around entrepreneurship. And when that program completed, with the hundreds of students who went through it, we didn't want to let that go. And so we created the center, and it has just been going strong. And so there are entrepreneurship and investment clubs at many of our institutions, and I will talk about the institutional level, where we are able to connect through the center and bring those ideas both into the center, but then cascade them back out onto the campuses and help build where there aren't centers for entrepreneurship organizations on some of the campuses, create them, launch them, move them forward, a place where organizations can make investment into UNCF to encourage that growth. And as individuals come out of those, then pursue and think about careers that help, you know, where that entrepreneurial idea, that entrepreneurial spirit, that intrapreneurial spirit helps them be of value to going off and working within other organizations. So there are some great things that are happening at our member institutions, and particularly, again, around this emergence of AI. We're seeing a lot of great investments from the tech companies into the work that we are doing on our various campuses.
Yeah, I know some banks out there have been interested in putting money into education because things are ramping up so fast. With compliance and cybersecurity and all kinds of things that impact that space so specifically, they can't keep up. And so educating the young ones that are coming up to learn how to deal with those things and become managers and leaders in these spaces in the finance area is just really key to them. So that's good to know.
There's an entire area now of study called FinTech, financial technology, where our students are getting much more involved. And we just are working now with an organization to build internships in FinTech and get students toward Wall Street, working toward those companies. Because to your point, the story of why'd you go there to rob? Well, that's where the money is. They've got to figure out ways to make sure to protect those resources, and people are becoming increasingly sophisticated, again, with AI contribution into, like, they're doing now voice kinds of things where if you had a vocal thing to unlock something, they can mirror your voice and unlock it. I mean, it's really this constant game of cat and mouse. And how do you create people who can stay ahead of the game and make sure that, there's the security that we have to have around all this stuff? Well, our campus is a part of those innovations, and we've got the center here at UNCF.
Wow, this is like a one-stop shop for everybody.
Yes. We're trying to be purposefully so. Really try to stay ahead of and talk with our people in industry. What's emerging? What do you need by ways of employees? How can we work with our member institutions to offer the kinds of degree programs, educational opportunities, while making sure that as liberal arts institutions, we're educating the whole person? So how can you critically think? How can you communicate? How can you have numeracy skills? How do you have problem-solving skills? But what's fascinating for us is, and how do you do that within a cultural context that makes you feel strong as you come out of that institution into the workforce, so that you have the ability to really know that you're skilled and ready to take on those challenges of the future.
Larry, I had a conversation earlier with, I call him my business diplomat out in Indiana, and he's a gentleman that's been around for a long time and had an illustrious career at GE General Motors. General Motors is what it was. And we were talking about a college that he is getting ready to maybe potentially locate a headquarters at, because they've invited him to do so, because he has papers and speeches and things like that. And he wants to work with youth in a particular way that has to do with social entrepreneurship. And so it's not just entrepreneurship, but it's entrepreneurship with that impact on the end of it. And so we were talking about the fact that, one of the things that whenever I have an opportunity to speak with youth or mentor them, we talk about global citizenship, because you really almost have to understand and appreciate that if you're ever going to be in any kind of a tech field, you're likely going to have to communicate and be a team member with somebody in another country. And how are you going to deal with that when they are, not answering a phone call for maybe a week or two, when they're dealing with their own, maybe a family, funeral situation, or a festivity, or a holy, holiday that they have going on,
or the monsoon season, and there's flooding.
or a disaster that's struck, and then they don't, they're not able to communicate. But there's different cultural situations that can be really sensitive for one or the other. I'm in a situation right now where I'm trying to kind of be a peacemaker between two parties that are not agreeing with each other because one seems insulted. So I'm saying it's one of those things that I think that's the missing piece, I think, in youth education. And I'm not sure it even goes to the college. I think it's at the high school level, before you even make those decisions, before you go to college, that we need to start thinking in that vein of, what's it like in other countries, and how do people, make decisions and that sort of thing, in the business sense there. But I want to get back to you and what you're doing now, because you're not quite a year into the new, job title. You've done an awful lot in the 18 years you've been there, but I know that there's probably more you have on your plate. You still got the enthusiasm of somebody who just gotten in there. I mean, I love that.
Well, I tell people I have the best job in America. Where else, right? Where else at the end of the year does your boss look at you and say, "Did you spend $60 million?" And I have to say yes, right?
Oh, Lord.
So I have the best job in America.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Exactly, right.
All right, you got to spend it all. Yeah, we learned that in government. If you don't spend it, they won't give you more.
Right. And I get to work with young people. And so that keeps sort of a certain level of energy. But the thing really for me that hasn't changed all the way along the way, the different titles, the different roles, the different levels, is at the end of every day, I have the privilege of pushing back from my desk and turning off my computer and knowing absolutely that I've helped to make someone's life better. And that can take you through a lot of challenges because you see the greater good, you see the impact on a person, on an individual, and there's so many stories. You know, I was sharing with you earlier, one of my favorite students is a 58-year-old mom that came back to education after she had sent all of her kids through college, and she saw the impact on their lives, and she wanted to have that opportunity. So she applied to one of our best programs, the Gates Millennium Scholars Program, and became a Gates Millennium Scholar, and went through her education fully supported by the scholarship of that program, graduated, and has continued in a professional life. We had a dad who had dropped out of education, had kids, was an artist, is an artist actually, and knew that for his children, he wanted to create a better life by going back to school, got his GED, became a Gates Millennium Scholar, got a bachelor's in fine arts, and has continued as an artist with his education, and now has created a great life for his family. We have students who have gone on and become college professors, people who have been able to go into medicine and healthcare and all of these different things where their lives now touch the lives of others. And so it's that full circle, those ripples of good that keep me energized in doing this work, even in the days when it can be really hard. Because the giving away money is sometimes surprisingly challenging. There are lots of issues that come up. We've had to navigate the Supreme Court decision and make some changes in the work that we do to make sure that we are living on the right side of the law now. We've had to innovate around that, but it's exciting work, and it's impactful work, and it keeps folks connected. About me and this new executive vice presidency, still being determined. With more title comes more responsibility, and so I'm working in broader ways now. For instance, we are having a very interesting challenge here this year in the U.S. with our new FAFSA. Some people may have heard that it hasn't gone quite as smoothly as we had hoped, but we are helping colleges navigate that. And as someone who served as a former dean of undergraduate admission and freshman aid, has been involved with financial aid, of course, in the role that I play now and for many, many years, I'm helping navigate the organization through that, consulting with some of our member institutions on their campuses, their financial aid offices, of how to deal with the various challenges that are coming up. So I find myself more in sort of broader roles than the day-to-day work of shaping the actual division. Fortunately, UNCF has backstopped me with some very talented individuals who are now involved in that more day-to-day management work, as I have sort of beginning to step out and do this more broader executive management, but more deeper consultancy engagement kind of roles with our member schools.
Well, I know you have 37 schools that you're involved with right now, but there actually are how many altogether in the United States that
of HBCUs?
Yeah.
105.
105. Wow.
Currently,
Okay.
right.
And
we work with all of them.
Best do they? I mean, they're mostly, didn't you say, South and
South, Northeast, well, none of the Northeast, but South and South, Midwest, South Central.
I know Texas,
Southwest.
there's some in Texas.
All the way over to Texas.
Yeah.
Yep, Wilberforce in Ohio as well. But yeah, pretty much that swath of the country.
Okay. And it seems like you have partnerships that you rely on for sure to be able to do. You were mentioning when we were talking about the pharmaceutical example, the program that you had there with somebody coming in, stepping in and helping out there. So for what you might have on the plate going forward, what kind of partners might you be looking to have come and help you? I mean, what kind of partnerships sound good to you that you might be looking
Well, of course, tech. Always tech.
Yeah.
We've got a great relationship with Google. We've got a great relationship with the folks out at Microsoft. So we're agnostic to platform.
Okay.
But we've built some very, very good relationships with tech, and really they have been ahead of the game. And part of that is because many years ago, they recognized that there was a startling lack of diversity in tech, and they reached out to UNCF to see if we could be helpful to individual companies, but then the sector. And we've been able to respond well in things like professorships on our various campuses, investments into curriculum at our schools, but direct investments into students and helping them connect to tech in very meaningful ways, developing educational opportunities and the like. So tech is one area.
Hands-on.
Bio and bioengineering. That is a rapidly growing field, particularly in the medical area, as now we are looking at genetic engineering of various medications. One of the best things that came out of the pandemic was the incredible response of the biotech community to that worldwide, the global challenge that we faced, and just the rapidity at which we are able now to create novel vaccines and do all that work, and the way that biotech is moving. So biotech is definitely one of those areas. Finance, I talked a little bit about fintech, but particularly still finance, and the way that, the communities of diversity, as they are growing now in their middle class and having wealth, seeing people who are reflected as them in helping them grow and manage that wealth is an important area. So we have some great programs that we're doing in finance. We have something called Lighted Pathways, where a number of finance companies in New England, Boston is a big financial hub. Well, they were not seeing a great deal of diversity in those populations of students that were coming to work in those companies. And they said, hey, is there a way that we can create a pipeline from HBCU into this particular community in Boston finance? We are sending our third group now of over 30 students this summer to internships within various financial companies that have come together and created an opportunity. And that's turning out exceedingly well. So much so now that Chicago wants to hop on board with a program next year to move it not only to Boston, but out to the Midwest.
Nice.
And, exactly. So we're seeing that growth. We're seeing growth in insurance. As the world has become warmer, as we're seeing many more challenges, as we're seeing the rates go up in those areas, and they need people to help think about how we protect our infrastructure, but also how we, work with individuals who need that protection. We're increasingly hearing from insurance companies as ways of adding to their employee force and grow. And then lastly, communities across the country. The generation of people who went into public service as social workers, as people who are in government service, as people who are the community organizers, as people who help our communities deliver on their promise and grow. People who are the social workers, the psychologists, the educators and the like. Those individuals, as the baby boom generation now is retiring, they are hungry for people coming into the workforce who are skilled in those areas. And interestingly enough, right now, those are the hardest places to find scholarship funding. We've deeply invested in STEM, we've deeply invested in business, but now we have that need. And we're increasingly seeing investments made in students coming into those areas and to things like the law. And so those are all new partnerships that we're developing, conversations that we're having, areas that we are growing, but also areas of need. Oh, and I'll add one other. All that work is great, but we still need people who are going to create the music, who are going to create the art, who are going to be able to give us moments of relief, who are going to give us moments of inspiration, who are going to give us moments of thoughtfulness. And we are losing a generation of individuals in that creative space because, interestingly, much like science, that's a bench education. You don't create a dancer out of Juilliard in a lecture hall of 40 people. That's a one-on-one education. And that education is increasingly expensive. And so what we're finding is that increasingly students, and particularly students of diverse backgrounds and first-generation kids, aren't going into it because of the cost of that education. And we need those students. And so we are increasingly inviting people who want to invest in creative minds, and those individuals who will be the musicians and the artists, the artists and the dance artists and the performing artists of the future, to come and invest in students at UNCF who are going to continue to represent their communities and the ideas and the passions and the energy of those communities in the product of their work and their art.
Wow, you just made me think about 3 or 4 things. But one of the things I was wanting to bring up, just because I know that, we as the United States have signed agreements, and I know some other countries have too, is in the climate area. And I think energy, because we're all going towards that green energy, and I can tell you, just because I've interviewed so many people in that space, that carbon credits, all of that, is becoming a really hot space right now, and almost nobody knows anything about it. I mean, it's
so new,
except for the scientists and the people who are working in it. But yeah, it's kind of like the bio, tech fields, that the nanotech, or the nanomedicine fields. It's really tough unless you're right there in it. So
right.
it's there's another one of those tech fields that people need to kind of start looking at grooming the younger people into.
I will
There's a
tell you
lot
that,
there.
that Chevron made a great investment into some work with UNCF around that area. It's bringing 168 students through learning in that ecological green tech area. And it's a powerful commitment that they've made to producing students with skills in those areas. So bravo to them.
Yes, very good. I'm glad to hear that. That's nice to know. This is terrific. So we now know the partners you need. So everybody listening, you now know who to connect with.
And you know who to call
Yes.
at UNCF to help you make those connections.
That's right. And if you want to partner with them in let's say a financial way, then you also know who to call as well. So Larry, as always, it's a pleasure. And I figure, give it another, well, let's not wait 18 years. Let's just go another 5 years maybe, and see where you're at, what's going on then. Because I have a feeling you'll still be there and you'll still have the same passion, and maybe, who knows what you'll be doing, there. It sounds like you might be heading into policy making or something. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Depending on what administration is up next, that might be a step.
Who knows? And then, well, I know you wear more hats than UNCF. I know, and we didn't really get around to a lot of that, but I think you do serve on some boards and some other things that are relative to kind of the work that you do with around education and helping. Basically, what I look at is education is part of economic development. So doesn't matter what else you put it under. It's all about helping not only the students, but what they are a part of, which is the community and economic development for the community. So thank you for all the good work that you're doing and what UNCF is doing. Smart of them to keep you going and keep you upwardly mobile with that. So I appreciate it. We'll check in with you again. I'd love for everyone, stay with me just a second. I would love for everyone to connect with him. We're going to provide this interview. If you're watching it on any other place you get your podcast, go to frontrunnersinnovate.com. You'll get this interview and his LinkedIn profile, and maybe the UNCF website, and anything else he wants to provide with to us. There's probably a news release about the 80th anniversary or something that we'll shoot in there, and it'll all be good. So thank you so much again, Larry, and thank you everybody for watching. Until next time.
You're welcome, Mary. And remember, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in.
Perfect. Well stated. Thank you, Larry. Bye-bye.
Take care.